Hello everyone and welcome back. Um I already tried to record this video. Turns out my mic wasn't actually connected to OBS. Probably should have checked that a bit beforehand, but yeah. Also, yeah, never mind. I was gonna try to have my hat backwards and it's just not. If you can tell, got the yeah. Hold on. Okay. Not gonna lie, I need a haircut. Reason I'm wearing a hat though is because my hair is so inconsistent and is actually getting quite a bit long now, so I'm gonna start. I gotta just get it. This is what I'm saying. Anyway, so if you couldn't tell, I'm talking about One Piece, more the TCG than the anime. I've not gotten all that far in the anime. I think I'm episode 80 something. I don't know. But reason I'm talking about One Piece today is because I'm going to a tournament with one of my friends. So it's a pretty casual tournament, apparently. I just called them right before I recorded this, to check about translations because I have a couple Japanese cards in my deck. Not technically by choice, but technically it was because my dumbass didn't think maybe I should check to see if this, booster box is in English. So, it's just a couple cards, but I got like a 10 pack of the best, and it was in Japanese. Wow. I know, so useful, right? Um, but reason I want to talk about the One Piece TCG is because I've been getting into it quite a bit. I think I started a couple months ago playing it, and the deck I'm playing is Carrot. Uh, you know, wrong way. Carrot, right? So the whole deck strategy is just about having minks on the board and keeping your opponent's stuff rested. Uh, my friend is playing a Marco deck, so and honestly, they've been doing pretty good against Carrot. Like very shockingly good, because the main thing with Carrot is that if you're playing a aggro deck, it's not gonna end very well for you because all of your stuff is just gonna be rested, right? So, just yesterday we played a game and I think he had like one thing unrested and it was a Haruta, but like I just kept everything else rested and he just couldn't do anything about it. He also made the dumb decision of not blocking or countering actually for that matter. So like very early on, I think I already took away like two of his life cards. For those of you who don't know, Marco is a 4 life. I'll put it wrong way. That that's the card. Um, but I more want to talk about just getting into One Piece and some card games in general. I think I'll do like some other card games in like future videos. Today's just a One Piece thing though. But right, if you're trying to get into any card game, first thing you should do is research how to play. Right? Even if it's just like a short, 10-15 minute video, that is essentially like step one is how do you play, what should you look for booster packs, and just kind of like that beginner kit stuff. And I'm actually going to go over that, so if you are newer to card games or you're trying to get into One Piece, you can stick around for the rest of the video to find out how you can get into it. But this is more for people who are already into it and already like playing casually and are trying to get into tournaments. First thing I would recommend is if you have a local card shop, go to their website and see if they have any events. That is the easiest way to figure out whether or not they're gonna have tournaments. Now, if they do, great. You don't have to drive that far. It might be like a 20-minute drive for you at most. I know for me to go to my locals, it's like a 20-minute drive, give or take. So that's step one, right? Just go online, see what they got for you. If they don't have anything, try to look for the closest spot that does. I think like outside of the locals that I have, I think the next closest area is like 30 minutes. I think it's 30 minutes. But that is like your step one is just go online, figure out where you can actually go to play. The next thing is actually building a deck list for yourself, and in case an event is like, hey, we need to see what you're playing. So in my case, like my carrot deck, it's very kind of half-assed right now because I don't have all of the pieces that would normally be in a carrot deck. So like I only have one Don Quixote do Flamingo. It's also in Japanese, which is cool, but and typically what you see is people running like 2 or 4 copies of that, kind of more depending on what you're going for. I think I think what I've seen for a majority of carrot decks is 4 copies. But you want to go online, right? You want to see what other people are playing in their deck list, and then obviously you can tweak stuff as you get cards that you're like, oh, I like this. Like, Ice Age got banned just recently, but people are already finding replacements in, I think it's a 10 cost Kuzan. I'll put the card up on the screen so you guys can see it. But it's pretty much the same thing. It's a little more expensive, obviously, but instead of just hitting one card, it hits all of your opponent's characters, which is really good if you're playing a mass removal deck like Smoker, or if you're doing anything that has to actually rely on cost. Now, another deck I did think about playing for this event was King, which is a black-purple deck. It would have been nice if Ice Age wasn't banned, but it is, so oh well. Uh, but I didn't have enough of like the actual main line stuff to really be like, ah, I can play King. Uh, Speaking of which, Sanji's theme is playing right now, or a version of it. This isn't. I don't think this is actually Sanji's theme, but anyway. I do have a red Sanji leader. He's the one that just gives shit rush, and then you go in, you beat your opponent up, and then you have a good time with him. So that is more dependent on what I have for generic reds, because for the most part, his stuff is just what do you have for reds, what do you have that you can just toss out on the board, give rush, and beat down your opponent. In which case I do have quite a few generic reds. I don't think I have enough to construct him as a deck. But another thing I want to do on this channel is drop deck lists and kind of go over how to play stuff. Similar to, I think the channel is Quips and Quack, or Quips and Guac. I I think that's the channel name. He does a bunch of Magic the Gathering Commander decks, or I think it's just Commander. He might do modern stuff as well. But it's more in like a slideshow fashion where cards are put on the screen, you get to actually see where your little combo lines are going to be. And yeah, so something similar to that, or when I eventually get a decent camera, I'll just have like the actual cards splayed out if I have them. But yeah, so if you're looking to get into tournaments and stuff, look it up on your locals, right? Go to their website, figure out closest area you can play. And I don't think I've seen a single locals that doesn't do tournaments or like just places where you can go to play and get packs and stuff like that. Like I think every single card shop I've seen has some sort of way where you can actually play to get stuff. So yeah, and the tournament I'm going to today, you play, and every win you get a promo pack. So that'll be nice to have. And I'm gonna be going live tonight. I know, a little off schedule, but I haven't gone live since 2 weeks ago, or no, a week ago. Because I was technically supposed to go live Saturday, which I was gonna do with my older brother, but he had fallen asleep by the time I got back home from work. And then I was gonna do a live tomorrow, or not tomorrow, yesterday. But then I fell asleep once I got home, so you know, sleeping it's a thing. But yeah, so eventually I'll tell you guys about that. It'll probably just be on tonight's live. But yeah, so for those of you who are experienced, that's really about it for the video for you guys. For those of you who are beginners, though, I got some more stuff for you. So, if you're beginning a card game, right, you're trying to get into it, like I said, look up stuff on how to play, how to start, anything that's going to be useful. Now, typically, a lot of different card games are going to have different things for packs. So, Magic, I think, is the main one that does this. But, like, they'll have draft boosters, play boosters, they'll have, like, different types of booster packs. But for One Piece specifically, there's none of that. You just buy booster packs and you get your cards, right? That's pretty much about it. So it's pretty simple in terms of just buying packs, right? But big thing is you should look up what kind of deck you want. So purple I believe is ramp, green is more just playing defensively and eventually getting out your big guys so that you can just run over your opponent. Red is very aggressive, so you'll have a lot of stuff that plays into rush. I don't think I've seen too many blockers in red though. So for the most part, for red, you're just attaching stuff to your own characters with effects, and you're debuffing your opponent's characters. So you'll see a lot of stuff that's like, oh, give your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn, or if an opponent's character has this amount of power or less, you get to KO it. So red is very aggressive, right? Not too much there. Blue is a bit wonky because from what I've seen, it does a lot of more like returning stuff to deck than anything. There is, however, a blue Nami card that if you were to deck out, instead of losing, you win the game. So if you want to go down like a route of really interesting like deck building or something that's really just strange and unexpected, that's a pretty good way to start exploring. Is kind of looking into more of those niche decks. But for the most part, right, just kind of look into blue, I would say specifically, because I haven't really seen a whole lot of blue decks, and from what I've seen, it is just returning stuff to deck, and then that's about it for the most part. Let's see, what other colors are there? Oh, black. Black decks are more cost reduction and KOing through effects. And yellow, I believe, is more life card manipulation. If someone has a better description for that one, they can leave it down in the comments. But per- from what I've seen, yellow is just, looking at your life cards, taking the top life card, flipping it up, whatever. But yeah. So obviously, different things are gonna play into, you know, different colors are gonna play into different things, is what I should say. But if you really want to get into a very specific character, typically you are gonna want to research that beforehand, see what packs you need to buy, and then depending on what the main like pack set is, you might want to buy like a box. So in my case, because I'm playing Carrot, I would be getting more. I think it's OPO8 is two legends. So I would be really buying into that, and then maybe buying a couple stray packs of like OP10, OP9, whatever. And just kind of branching out into the smaller pack sections. what the fuck? See, I selected this playlist thinking, oh, it's gonna be all just like One Piece songs. I mean, it is all One Piece songs, but it's a lot of also like, oh, One Piece, but it's lo-fi, which I don't care about. I was trying to keep it on theme for the episode, but it seems like the playlist has different ideas and plans and stuff and things. But yeah, so anyway, getting back on track. If you're like starting out, you have no idea where to start. Just look up what kind of deck you might want to be playing. If you have like a favorite character from One Piece in mind, chances are there is a leader card for them. So you can, look up like, oh, you know, let's say your favorite character is Nami. Nami One Piece deck, right? Or Sanji One Piece deck, or Smoker One Piece deck, right? You just look up the character and then put One Piece deck at the end, and usually something will pop up. Now another thing that you could look into is starter decks, right? Those are obviously a little bit more productive, I would say. And the fact that you can just build around the structure deck itself. So you can buy it, right, use that as your core, and then have a couple of other cards added into the deck. Now, that is a little more for casual play, so if you are looking to get into competitive, then you are going to have to do the first option, which is look up, your whole deck archetype, and then build around that. Now, into the actual, playing bit, is pretty simple, right? Beginning of your turn, you take a Don from your Don deck, put it on the field in your cost area, which is going to be bottom of your playing area. And then you have your leader right above that, and your deck a little spaced from that. In between that would be if you have a stage card. Ooh, we're switching songs. Switching songs. Anyway, so kind of more just I don't know how to quite explain it, but it's a very easy format to play with. In terms of actual gameplay, though, right? You obviously draw a card for turn from your deck, you put your Dawn on the field, and now from here you have the actual gameplay, and I'm gonna show you guys with my actual cards. Hold on. 1 second. So these are Dawn cards. I'm just gonna grab these two, because why not? So they just look like these, right? They're nothing too special. But you can attach these characters, and during your turn, they gain plus 1000 power. Now, I'll just use this as an example since it's my leader. That is, hold on, get a little closer. Your power. And for leader cards, you'll have a life. So that is how many cards from the top of your deck you're putting into your life card zone. So the setup is easy, right? You draw 5 cards from your deck for your hand, and then you take the next 5 and throw them into your life cards. So, I mean, for me, it's my next 5 because that's my life total. Most decks, I believe, have 4 life. I'm pretty sure it's 4 life is like where most characters sit at. But that is pretty much it for setup, right? And obviously you have your leader card. So what you'll do is you'll have your leader card here, your deck here. Event card would go here if you have one that you can play. And then any Dawn kind of goes under that. Now characters, right? Let's say this is where your leader is. Your characters kind of just go right above that. The reason for that is, some characters have a blocker effect. So let's say someone's trying to swing into your leader, you can shift the attack over to them. Or you want to protect one of your higher attackers that maybe, got debuffed, right? Boom, now you can block and your big attacker is safe, so that next turn you can unrest them and start attacking your opponent. Now another big thing is event cards. This is just Garchu. So event cards, much like characters, will have a cost at the top. So this one only cost 1 Don to play. So what you do is you take your Don, turn it sideways, which is called resting, and now you can play this card. In this case, it's a main. You may rest one of your Minx type characters, rest up to one of your opponent's characters. So what you do, let's get an actual Minx character. We'll get Nekama Mushi. Right. So, your character typing is going to be right at the bottom there. So this is a Minx and the Yakuza 9. But you would take this, right? Play it on the field. This would get rested, and then you choose one of your opponent's characters, and you rest them, right? Uh, and since we're on the topic of characters, I'll also talk about triggers while I'm at it. Actually, let's talk about triggers first. So triggers activate when you take a card from your life card pile and add it to your hand. This is what happens when someone successfully attacks your leader and hits your leader. So triggers, what it'll do is you'll pick up the life card, you'll be like, I have a trigger, and then you just throw this into your discard pile, which goes right under your deck. So in this case, the trigger is just draw one card. So I would put this in my discard pile, draw a card, and then that would be it. Some effects will KO characters, some will rest characters. Like in this deck, I think all of my triggers are mostly just resting. I don't think I have any that really KO targets. So that's all that is, right? It's just pick it up, throw it into your graveyard, you do whatever, or not graveyard, your discard pile, and do whatever the trigger says. Now, characters, right? A little bit different of a setup. This one's actually a pretty good example for a lot of things. So, the main thing is your cost, right? You're going to have your cost and your power in the other corner. So, this cost 5 Don, so I take my 5 Don, turn them sideways, resting them, and I just play my character on the field. Now, in this case, I do have a on play effect. Don't know if the camera's picking that up very well. But on play, if my opponent has 7 or more rested cards, so anything on the field is considered a card, this character gains rush during this turn. So, another big thing to note with characters is when you originally play them, right, unless they have rush, they cannot attack that turn. So, very similar to Summoning Sickness and Magic the Gathering, characters in One Piece have the same thing. So, in this case, right, this gains rush, and so it can attack immediately. And it's 6,000 power, so if I attack into a character that has 1,000 power, I win. If I attack into something with 6,000 power, I still win that battle, but the opponent has a bigger chance and opening to counter, do whatever. And speaking of counters, Nekamamushi actually has one. So counters are always going to be a counter and then plus 1,000 or 2,000, I believe. I don't know if there's anything that goes above 2,000 for something like this. But well, what would happen is, let's say your leader's getting attacked, right? Your opponent's coming in with a 6,000 power. Actually, we'll go 5,000 power for the sake of keeping the example consistent here, right? And your leader is now under attack. What you do is you take this, discard it, and you would just be like, I counter 4 plus, and then whatever the total is. So if your opponent is attacking with something of the same power, they still win if you don't counter. So it is very important to note that when you're deck building. So I would say typically, like a lot of decks are probably going to have around 20 counters in there somewhere. Some event cards actually do have counters, and I'll go over those in just a second once I actually find the one in this deck. Because I think I have 2 copies of it. Once I can find it. Hold please. There it is. This card is in Japanese, so I'm going to do my best to translate it as carefully as I can. I think it's, yeah, it's 8. Okay. So this card, it's billion, I think it's Billionfold World Perkilia Cosm or something like that. I'll put the English version on the screen, but it costs 1, and the counter is just originally you play it on a leader character, and it gains plus 2,000 power. Now, if your opponent has 8 or more rested cards on the field, it gains another 2,000 power. So in this case, right, you actually have to pay the cost for this to be used. So I don't think many counters for event cards are going to be over like 2 Don for cost. But yet another thing to kind of keep track of while you're playing your turn is if you have one of these in your hand, you're going to want to keep some Don open so you can actually play the card if you feel like you're going to be getting attacked. If you're not too worried about it because you're playing something like Carrot, where you're resting a bunch of your opponent's stuff and you're not too worried about losing a life card, then you don't really have to. You can just play your turn as you normally would. But nice thing with stuff like this is it will usually give your character or leader more than the 2,000 counter that you would normally see with character counters. So, if you're like really trying to play defensively, those kinds of cards are really good to have in a deck. Usually, I think people only sneak like 4 copies in their own deck and call it good. I don't think I've actually seen many people play more than like 4 event counters. Now, once I find it, we're gonna talk about stage cards because they're another big thing that have to do with deck building. And usually, I think most major character types have a stage card that you can use. So in this case, right, stages are very similar to events and um, characters in the fact that they have a cost and a typing at the bottom. So in this case, the typing is animal, not minx, which I don't know why they did that. But I guess it's so you couldn't play your minx searcher and then just grab Zhou. Oh, which is how you pronounce that. I thought it was Zhao. Yeah, you can tell I haven't watched that much One Piece because I don't know the pronunciation. But same thing with characters and events. Every stage has a effect, and stages stay on the field after you play them. So what you do is you pay the original cost, right? So in this case, I'd be paying 3 to play Zhou. And after that, it just stays on the field, and then whatever its effects are, you can use them every turn that it's not rested. As long as it's your turn, I believe. I don't think I've seen a stage that can activate on your opponent's turn, but there might be one. So in this case, it's activate main. You may rest this stage, so turning it sideways, and if your leader has the Minx type, set up to one of your Don cards as active. So essentially, this is a good way, like, if you're like, oh, I want to play, my event counter next turn, but I don't have enough Don. Boom, you set your Don as active, and now you, hopefully, have enough Don. So, nice thing about that is also if you're playing Wanda, which is a Minx Searcher, or if you're playing pretty much any of the one-cost 2,000 power searchers, you can, you know, just well, I guess not technically any of these. I'm just gonna use my own example. So if I'm playing Wanda, right? I play her on the field. She's a one-cost 2,000 power searcher. What I can do is I can rest my stage and set that Don back as active, so I can either attach it to something or use it for another character. Reason why that's useful is because you essentially get one off of the cost of your characters without it being one off the cost. Another big thing that makes this very useful is if you play a 10 cost, you now have a free Don that you can use that turn, on top of the fact that you just played the 10 cost. And then the second effect is probably the more useful one, in my opinion. End of your turn, set up to one of your Minx type characters as active. So before it goes to your opponent's turn, you go into what would essentially be like an end phase, end step situation where you kind of just are using any of your end of your turn effects. In this case, what you would do is you would set one of your Minx type characters from rested into active position, which is good for this deck because it does have a blocker, Pedro. So blockers, right, you have to rest them to be able to block with them. So what does this mean if you attack with them? You can't block with them, right? Uh, Pretty intuitive there. So what this does is it allows you to attack with one of your blockers that turn. And in this case, Pedro is a 5,000 power, so you're going to be wanting to attack with him. But obviously, if you're like, oh, I need to have him up as a blocker because I don't have any way to turn him active again, you know, pretty simple. But that is a really good effect on any card, actually, is just being able to turn your cards from rested to active position. Reason why is because there are quite a few cards that will rest your opponent's stuff, right? So if your opponent is using stuff like that, you're kind of shit out of luck if you don't have something like that. But that is it for kind of like the card setup. Um, Main thing I would say though, for a beginner, I know that was a whole lot of information to take in at once. So this next part is pretty simple. Um, don't stop playing, right? Even if, right, your original group that you were playing with is like, yeah, I don't really like this game, don't want to play anymore. Try to find other people who will play. So I'm just putting my deck back in, my deck box. I'll show you guys the Go Flamingo card while I'm at it too, because why not? um, but right, if your original friend group is like, oh, I don't really like this game anymore, it's kind of boring, or whatever their reasoning is, just try to find someone else who will play the game. That's like the best way to continue being active in the game. And, right, if eventually you are like, oh, I don't really like this, you can also just then sell your cards online. And try to make some of your money back. Obviously, you're not going to always make all of your money back, but for the most part, I don't think I've seen many people quit like right away. I think the shortest like time I've seen someone quit out of a card game is like 6 months. And honestly, I would recommend that kind of being like the time period you take is 3 to 6 months, right? Play the game, see how you like it. And if you're like, yeah, this isn't for me, you can always just stop buying cards. Or if you want to go more down the collecting route, that is an option. But, right, if you do decide, all right, this isn't for me, sell your cards online and try to find either another card game that you like or something else that is going to be able to take that place. That is kind of like the single-handedly like best advice I can give someone who's new is just don't quit, right? If you're like, wow, I really like this game, but you have nobody to play with, go online, or if you have a locals that you know of, go to there. Chances are you will find people who are playing the exact same game as you, and you'll just be able to, eventually lead yourself into the friend group. We call them pods in most cases for card games. But, just keep playing. Eventually, right, you'll learn all the ins and outs. You'll learn how to, do all the different packs for your deck, and you'll also be able to deck build insanely good after a while. Uh, that is actually another bit of information, or a bit of advice, information. My brain is all scrambled today, if you couldn't tell. But, always be deck building, right? Even if you don't have cards, right? Go online. There's a bunch of websites that will allow you to build decks for card games. I'll throw a few in the description, right? The links down in the description. So that if you guys want to go look into those, you can. But try to deck build as much as you can, right? Even if it's just taking apart one of your decks you're currently using and rebuilding it, right? The more you deck build, the better you'll get at it. Same thing with just about anything in life is the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. Uh, you'll notice like my commentary kind of switches up on more of the recent videos, like this one, and it's just because I've practiced, right? In the time that I wasn't uploading, it was like 3 months. I literally would just like load up a game that I know how to play, and I would commentate. I would just kind of keep doing that, and eventually I got better at it. And you'll see that with some of the Final Fantasy VII videos, not the ones from when I was still in the study lounge at my college, but you'll notice the background change when you see it. Those videos, I think I've done a lot better with the commentary than anything else. But that's not why we're here. Uh, that's like one of the big things I did though is I just started deck building, right? I didn't put any thought into it. I just went in, build a deck, right? And I would play with it. Even if it's the most dog water, absolutely crappy build you've ever seen, it still helps, right? Even if it doesn't seem like it will, it does in the long run, right? You'll eventually be able to see like small niche combos where you're like, oh, I can really like just do this with this card and then add this card into the mix to throw people off, right? And you'll just be able to like see those little combo lines at some point. Now, I'm not going to give an exact estimate because everyone's going to have a different time frame, but I think it took me, for Magic specifically, like 6 months to actually get into that rhythm where I could build a deck and immediately see where all my combos were. It took me about 6 months to get there, and it was just from constantly deck building, watching other people build decks, and just kind of keeping up with some more of the meta builds. So, kind of do the same thing, right? If you know there's someone who's going to be playing and throwing videos up on YouTube for it, watch those, right? The best way to get experience is by watching other people who are much better at it. And I wouldn't say imitate them, but try to almost copy. I guess it is imitating in the long run. But try to like take from what they're doing and then make it your own, right? So if you're seeing this person play an aggro deck, right? But you're like, I really want to do this as well. Throw it in there, right? Try to mix and match your own little combos and your own different playstyle, and eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, wow, I can see where all my combos are. I can figure out, what cards I'm going to need in this deck. And this will also carry over more into when you're playing against other people, but you'll start to see their own combo lines, right? You'll be able to eventually figure out, oh, these are probably the cards that are going to follow up this card, right? Because every deck is kind of like a book. I would say it's like a book, right? Your starting phases are just going to be kind of a prologue, and then after that, every combo is a different chapter. So everything's going to obviously change each game. If you're having the exact same game, then honestly, that is more impressive than anything. But like I said, just keep deck building, watch other people build decks, watch other people play the game as well. And from that alone, you should be able to easily get to a point where if you want to start doing tournaments, you can. Or if you want to start playing at a higher power level, you can. Right? So for you beginners, just kind of stick down to that. I know this video had a lot of information to take in, but you know, that's kind of all card games is just a load of information that gets thrown in your face, and you know, you're kind of left to just digest it little by little. But for those of you who did stick around to the end, go Flamingo, right? I got a 10 pack of the best and didn't realize it was Japanese, and I pulled this dude from it, which I still use in my carrot deck. His effect is literally just on play, 3 of your opponent's leaders or characters that are rested stay rested for the next turn, which fits really well into the whole green theme of just, hey, all of your stuff is going to stay like this. Hope you like it. Also, I'm trying to put him back in the deck box, but yeah. Now, another bit of information for the beginners, I would recommend getting Dragon Shields, right? Almost immediately try to get Dragon Shields and some sort of playmat. Reason why is it'll help keep your cards, you know, in pretty good condition a lot longer. And, you know, you won't have to worry about your edges rubbing off or the foiling getting more dulled. And what the fuck is this? Anyway, so Dragon Shields I would really recommend. They are a little expensive, but you get 100 sleeves per pack that you buy, or I guess technically it's a box, and you can actually use the box as a deck box if you feel like it. Uh, Holy crap. Um, Something I noticed is they fit 60 cards really well. So, if you're playing modern format or standard, any 60 card format, pretty much, Dragon Shield boxes double very nicely as a deck box. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I'll try to get some other videos up for card games. I really want to start leaning more into that stuff. Um, and also I did throw up a poll, I believe 2 days ago. I'm gonna pull it back up, but it was to vote for what people wanted to see more. And it seems like a lot of people, well, 4 people, uh, want to see cooking videos, and that's all the votes that I actually got. So, yeah. But what I'll do for cooking videos, I have no idea yet. I'll probably record them with my computer, because I tried to record one with my phone camera and it wasn't that good. So, eventually I am going to try to get a good camera, whether it be a separate phone that I can just use for recording, or like one of the actual like webcams that have like 1080p quality, something like that. Um, but that's gonna be like way down the line kind of thing. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be trying to sprinkle in some other content as well, because I know for right now, I think it's been just Final Fantasy VII stuff for the most part. I think I said it, but I'm gonna try to redo the Hollow Knight series as well. Um, and try to keep that more to shorter videos where it's just one main boss, or maybe 2, depending on how short the video ends up being per episode. And yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm still kind of working on the channel, and this stuff is just more trying to see what people are gonna like. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.